Senator Joe Lieberman of Connecticut not only campaigned for his friend John McCain this year, but he went to the Republican National Convention and gave a speech trashing Barack Obama. He campaigned for down-ticket Republican senators, and he told right-wing talk show hosts how much he feared for the safety of the country if his party were successful in this election. So what do the Democrats do with Lieberman in the Senate now? His fate has a whole new significance in light of the chance that the Democrats are within reach of that much ballyhooed 60-seat majority. Even if the Alaska race and the Minnesota race and the Georgia race all went Democratic, if Lieberman quit or became a Republican, the Dems would end up at 59 seats, not 60. So what should the Democrats do? We know what the risks are of punishing Lieberman. He'll become mad. He'll become a Republican. He might resign. And then the Republican governor of Connecticut would appoint a Republican to replace him. No 60 seats. I get that. But are there risks of keeping Joe Lieberman where he is, letting him stay chairman of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs? Well, here's an idea. Lieberman hasn't exactly been a crusader as committee chairman. His counterpart committee chair on the House side, that's Henry Waxman. He has aggressively investigated everything from Valerie Plame to Abu Ghraib to secret White House email accounts to veterans health care to Karl Rove's political office in the White House to the Cheney Energy Task Force to the Pat Tillman killing in Afghanistan. Joe Lieberman, in contrast, he decided, after campaigning on a pledge to investigate the stuffing out of the government response to Katrina, he decided that once he had that committee chairmanship and the power to subpoena all those documents and witnesses like he talked about on the campaign trail, he decided to just let it go. Like floodwaters through an attic. Just let it go. Joe Lieberman has not actually been a crusading, inspiring figure of oversight while Bush has been in office. And he's been in charge of probably the premier executive branch oversight body in the whole Congress. So the risk of leaving Lieberman there is that we continue to have a wussy premier executive branch oversight body in Congress. Alternatively, given that Lieberman expressed such deep vituperative antipathy for the president-elect Barack Obama on the campaign trail this year, maybe Chairman Joe will see the Obama administration as cause to transform himself into Mr. Oversight. After all, wouldn't you expect that kind of thing from the guy who said that the next president of the United States is dangerously naive?
If we think that anybody thinks you can go over there and sort of talk reason and hug and kiss Ahmadinejad and he's just gonna act better, that's just naive.
Hug and kiss, right. Wouldn't you expect, some going after the president from the guy who told Fox News Radio that it is a fair question to ask whether the president-elect is a Marxist?
Is he a Marxist, as Bill Kristol says might be the case in today's New York Times?
Well, I must say this is a good question.
Wouldn't you expect some going after the president from the guy who told the Republican convention that the president-elect wants retreat in defeat from the battlefield and has shamefully undermined troops in the field?
When others wanted to retreat in defeat from the field of battle, which would have been a disaster for the USA, when colleagues like Barack Obama were voting to cut off funding for our American troops on the battlefield.
Is it impossible to expect that by leaving Joe Lieberman as chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee in the Senate, he will use that position to go after this horrible, scary, awful, unpatriotic, possibly Marxist, borderline traitor new president who he has tried so hard to warn us against? Is that the risk of keeping Lieberman as chair of this committee? On this program last night, Senator Evan Bayh suggested that if Lieberman does anything like that, the Democrats in Congress could revoke his chairmanship at that time.
If he does retain his chairmanship, we still exert oversight over him and control over him. He doesn't have the ability to just do whatever he wants. The caucus still has the right to remove him from that position at any time if he starts going off on some kind of tangent.
Right, but two things. First, why didn't you guys remove him when he refused to investigate Bush's response to Katrina? And second, are you really going to wait until he starts his first off-base witch-hunting investigation of Obama into whether he's a Marxist or a traitor or whatever, and then you're going to take away his gavel? I'm sure that's going to go over great. The Democrats want 60 seats in the Senate, so they want to hold on to Lieberman. But their plans for keeping him in his chairmanship, not punishing him at all, maybe just asking for an apology, those plans don't make sense. What makes sense to me is to do to Lieberman what happened to the Democrats who supported Barry Goldwater or George Wallace in elections past. They lost their committee jobs. And then, yes, maybe he will quit or become a Republican. But you know what? Joe Lieberman's not going to vote with the Democrats on important and contentious stuff like Iraq and torture. He might not even vote with Democrats on other things, since he told Glenn Beck on Election Day that he fears for the survival of the country if the Republicans can't filibuster the Democrats.
If we don't at least have the firewall of the filibuster in the Senate, that in many ways America will not survive.
Well, I hope it's not like that, but I fear. And I think the filibuster is a key.
The filibuster is key. So Lieberman's probably not going to be with the Dems in their 60-vote kill the filibuster majority, right? Listen, Democrats, you have lost Lieberman anyway. If you boot Lieberman out of his chairmanship, I know you probably won't get your 60 votes. But you do get a guy who politicized national security and homeland security in a disgusting fashion during this election. You do get him out of one of the most important security jobs in the government. And you do get your political soul and your political dignity back. And you probably get the satisfaction of seeing Joe Lieberman trying to run for re-election as a Republican next time around in New England. And that would probably be hilarious.